Hello, Happy New Year to you. This is Tim Sandel and I'm back with you with another Cleanroom related video looking at a subject in around 5 minutes. And this week it's all about machine maintenance. Now, I might be one of those people who struggles to tell one end of a screwdriver from another, which probably says an awful lot about my DIY skills or non-existent DIY skills. But I do know with machine maintenance and with tools required for clean rooms that there are some key principles that need to be observed. So the first thing is, for planned maintenance work, that's non-emergency situations, if you're working in sterile operations, then you need to make sure that the PIA has been raised and that it's been adequately assessed by sterility assurance and that the risks are fully understood. Then it's up to you to schedule the work at a time that you can make sure there's somebody around to supervise the work and to make sure that there's adequate time for the work to be completed and that there's adequate time for the cleaning and disinfection to take place. If there isn't, then don't plan the activity at that time. You also need to supervise the engineer to make sure that the engineer is following good hygienic practices and that anything untoward is noted. You also need to check that there's no scope creep, or if there is extra work that needs doing, then that the sterility assurance department are aware of this and they can then recomplete their assessment. Second point I'd like to make is actually about tools. So a screwdriver looking like this would not be appropriate for the clean room, and that's because it has rubber and plastic components. So tools for clean rooms should ideally be dedicated for clean rooms. Anything being used for grade A, whether it's during a filling operation or for another maintenance activity, must be a sterile tool. So the tool can either be sterilised by steam sterilisation, autoclave in an appropriate bag with wrapping and an expiry date, or perhaps something that's been irradiated externally. So all the tools need to be purely made out of stainless steel, and this makes them corrosion resistant, and we don't want other materials on there because they are one, difficult to sterilise. They can also corrode and become brittle and release particles, which we certainly don't want to happen. So make sure the tools are dedicated, sterile, and they need to be sterile. If they're not needed to be sterile, so they're used in grade B, then they need to be decontaminated with hydrogen peroxide before and after use. Now, my final point is with unplanned operations. Now, these will happen from time to time, but every time an unplanned event happens, it costs an awful lot in terms of time. You have to raise the work order and the PIA. The sterility assurance department need to assess that. The engineer needs to take time out to work on the activity. And then the room needs to be cleaned and disinfected afterwards. All of these take time. They all result in downtime and affect schedule adherence. And also, they might throw up issues to do with reliability. So it's very important that when unplanned events happen, that we're tracking and tracing those and working out why they happen. So if you want an idea for a New Year's resolution, then for this year, start tracking the unplanned events. Let's put them together and let's start to see why they're happening and make the process more efficient going forward. We also need to pay very careful attention to cleaning and disinfection after the event to make sure that every surface, every horizontal and vertical surface relating to the piece of equipment and the surrounding room has been first of all cleaned with detergent and secondary cleaned or disinfected with the disinfectant that's recommended by sterility assurance. There will most often be the sporicidal disinfectant, and that's because if we're accessing things like panels or other areas where there's a potential for the release of spores, then we need to be able to address those and not get repeated hits going forward. Okay, so that's this video in around 5 minutes again. So looks like I need to go and use my screwdriver because I can hear something creaking in the background. Meanwhile, good luck with your shift, and until next time, see you later. Goodbye.